Was this update a game changer? What's changed? What's good? What's excruciatingly painful and awful? That is what we're going to address in this video, beginning with all the positives and delightful things and then descending into sadness and despair when we highlight what will make you want to pull your hair out with this game. As always, subscribe so you can then unsubscribe, click the like button, and thank you to all our channel members, Patreon members, Twitch followers and people that financially support us. Without you, we wouldn't be here, which would probably be better for the internet, but we're here and it's your fault. So the positives, and there are few, I would definitely describe this last update as a game changer. The biggest positives are the force feedback has improved quite substantially, both them adding more texture, rumble texture and details for the actual road coming through the wheel, so it won't feel as flat and boring, which is nice for general immersion and connectedness to the road. But even more important, the load forces in the force feedback seem a lot more detailed, with you both on tarmac and dirt much more easily able to feel what the tyres are doing and how much you're loading the tyres up. Now let's not get carried away, the force feedback isn't better than AMS1, AC1 or iRacing with Marvin's app, but it's certainly very usable force feedback, immersive force feedback, and force feedback that doesn't get in the way of driving. It helps you drive. That's the main thing. It's a big improvement on how it felt last time I played AC Rally. So fantastic job with that. I think it could still be even better, but we're getting somewhere there. Bloody good. Now the next big thing that's changed, and maybe this is also impacting the force feedback because force feedback is driven by the physics, is it seems like the lateral grip has increased to some degree. As you go through corners, as you push the cars, the grip seems to come back a little bit faster. It's a little bit more forgiving to drive. The cars require a little bit more effort to get them into wider slip and to push them over the limit. So the cars seem a little bit more recoverable and a little less prone to getting stuck in massive slop slides, and you're less likely to slowly meander off the track. Though there are still some fairly sizable physics issues, but we'll save that for later. Generally though, massive improvement over the previous version. A lot more fun to drive the cars, a lot more forgiving, and a lot more intuitive with this update. Now another massive positive with this update are the two new Greek rally stages, and who doesn't like Greece? And these stages are absolutely phenomenal. You can't knock the graphics in this game in terms of just how it looks generally, you know, the shiny lighting and grass and trees and all that stuff, and road details and texture resolution looks really great. But the more important thing is how the stages drive and the detail of the road surface and that mesh that the car is driving over. And these Greek stages are really, really high quality, just like the other stages that you find in the game. In particular, this track, which I'm going to now pronounce incorrectly, apologies to all our Greek viewers, Loutraki, probably isn't said that way, but I've tried. This stage is so much fun to drive. The different sections of it, the more open initial part of this stage, and the grass, which is obviously the most important part of any video game. Look at that grass. It's bloody amazing. Grass everywhere, different types of grass, and you have that whole hedge section at the beginning, but the flow of it's just so nice. Nice bit of spacious track to start with, and then you go from that spacious track, fast flowing, to tighter track, and even has a nice little road section, so you get to experience going from this sort of loose gravelly surface to a lamp post, 360 no scope, just testing the crash damage. There's the door, there's a hedge, don't worry about that. You get to test the gravel section, and then you get to have to quickly adapt to a bit of a tarmac section, followed by a more narrow gravel section. Just so fun. I drove this track probably like 15 times now, so it's now a hill climb track in my mind. You can just keep doing it over and over again. Bloody amazing stage, and all the nice little details are great. Interestingly as well, the other Greek track drives really quite differently and has a really quite different, more rugged road surface. So it really is a different location to drive and a different challenge to drive. And again, you just have really interesting cambers, bumps and variation to the roads in this game. I do worry a little bit how they're going to keep this detail up if they want to keep adding even more stages. But it is really nice to play a rally game with stages of this quality, this variation. And, you know, I say a rally game ends up being a bit of a hill climb title. So you really do end up appreciating all this detail. Absolutely bloody fantastic on the stages. Now, of course, another new thing in the update is the inclusion of multiplayer. It's very clearly an initial introduction of the multiplayer. It's not fleshed out. The UI and everything on it is clearly not finished. But fundamentally, it's really nice that you can now load up the game. You can jump into a multiplayer lobby and compare your times immediately against other people in that lobby. Or host a lobby and maybe get your friends to jump into it and compare your times with them. So the basic fundamentals for multiplayer are there, but it's very obviously just put in there for initial testing and not fleshed out. Early access, can't complain. But it's nice. It's really nice to see more features coming into the early access. And I think as an early access update, just the sheer quality of the two new tracks, the force feedback improvements and the physics improvements, that does classify this as a game-changing update. So really, really good job. Definitely worth loading this up if you hadn't previously or you were more annoyed with the game previously. Load it up now, give it a go. It is substantially different, I would say, to play than it was the previous version, and I think a lot more enjoyable. And as I also say, if you haven't bought the game, I would probably still hold off and wait for it to get more polished. There's no real point in jumping into an early access unless you really want to see a game develop and change. You're probably actually better off with a rally game waiting until it's finished, it's got more stages before you jump into it as well. But if you were really hankering for a different rally title and you don't have Richard Burns Rally already, and you've maybe played through the other rally titles, Dirt Rally 2 and other stuff, and you're desperate to jump in, I definitely think this title is worth picking up. It's got a lot of stuff, different vehicles there, got different tracks. It's not a finished title, it doesn't have a polished single player, but you know, you can really enjoy just driving the cars on the stages, trying to beat your friends. So I think you can get a lot of entertainment out of it as it is in its current state, as long as you keep in mind that it very much is early access and probably going to change. So for the price it is, I actually think it's quite good. So there you go, guys. That is the positive section of this video and the big positives with the update. Now, the part that you were waiting for, those of you that are sad and miserable, the bad aspects of this game and what really sucks still. So, first of all, they still don't have a proper lock to horizon camera system or head filter system. There are camera settings in the game, you can fiddle with them, but they really don't work as you would expect camera filtering to work. It's more that you're applying a filter to a camera that moves around and joggles around. We tried lots of settings. We even tried developer recommended settings. The developer's aware that they don't have lock to horizon. Hopefully it's something that they will actually implement, because for people that get motion sick, it's pretty terrible on the bumpy Greek stages. Maybe not so bad on tarmac stages, but yeah, it's something that hopefully that they can address. Also worth noting is the game still has a weird lack of sense of speed to it. Doesn't really matter what you do with the camera. I move the camera forwards and increase field of view, that helps a bit, but there's just something a bit weird with this title that makes it feel like you're actually going slower than you are compared to other titles. I don't know if it's how the field of view is rendered, I don't know if it's to do with DLSS or whatever, or textures or something else. This game just weirdly feels like you're going a bit slow. Don't know what that is, but I think that also can impact how you feel, how effective the car's braking and acceleration is as well. I've noticed quite a lot of people mentioning this, and a lot of people don't notice it at all, but there seems to be something a bit weird with this game in the sense of speed. Don't know if they'll ever fix that, but it's something to be aware of. Physics. So, as I say, they seem to have improved the general grip and controllability of the vehicles in many ways, but it still has some fairly sizable issues in the handling. One of them is a tendency for the cars to mid to late corner understeer and just slowly understeer off the track in a way that you can't really resolve unless you already preemptively set the car up in a slide, which I'm not saying that's not a typical way to handle a rally car. You would set cars up, especially of various eras. However, the way that this slowly slides off is very bizarre. Fortunately, we were fiddling around with car setups. If you change toe settings and some diff settings and some ARB settings, you can mitigate that quite a bit, though it seems like you have to go pretty crazy on the car setup to mitigate that. But yeah, fortunately car setup can help dial that out quite a bit. But even so, it seems like the cars just generally want to do this slow understeer. Worse though, and more notably in the physics, is the cars are really hypersensitive to pitch of the road and camber of the road, such that you can have like a little bit of pitch in the road and then the car is driving as if there's 10 times as much pitch. And it will really catch you out if compared to every other racing simulator and every other rally game I've ever played. And it really catches me out in this simulator when you've got used to how the car's handling on all the other types of road and situations, and then all of a sudden there's a behaviour of the vehicle where it just seems completely out of scale and proportion with the rest of the vehicle's handling. So sure, you can learn how to drive this game by going, okay, if the road is tilting down or off camber a little bit, prepare yourself to be massively over the top in preemptively braking and preemptively setting the car up. But you know, it just seems really weird to me. Also, the game still has the issue where if a wheel locks or you go over the limit, it kind of gets stuck over the limit, and the physics kind of go a bit crazy. You get this with, if you initially get a bit too much understeer, it will just keep ploughing massively, even if you're not going into a corner far too hot. And you also get this with handbrake turns, for example. The rear of the car just goes absolutely mental from basic handbrake turns unless you're stupendously cautious and effectively set the car up in a power slide and then do a bit of a handbrake turn. But the car just goes mega leery over the limit until it then comes back again. It's like, to me, it feels like this game has 2 or maybe 3 tyre models, like a low speed tyre model which behaves however it behaves, which is quite different to when you're above like 100. Then it goes into another tyre model for that normal driving, which is quite nice actually, a nice sort of tyre behaviour. And then if you go over the limit, it's as if it's another completely different tyre model, which is really unhinged in handling, handbrake turns, locking up a wheel. And as a result, it can really sort of throw you off and catch you out if you actually try to drive this hardcore seat of the pants style. Like, you know, if you're playing Richard Burns Rally or Dirt 1, Dirt 2, and you're just going full send, reacting to what the car's doing, you are going to get seemingly arbitrarily bitten in the ass by this game where you wouldn't expect it to. You're not getting bitten in the ass because you were too over the top with a specific corner or lined a corner up wrong or got the pace notes wrong. You get bitten in the ass because a very slow, slightly off camber corner slowly makes you understeer off the track. Not saying that doesn't happen in real life and that could catch people out in any sim or real cars. I'm just saying in this game, there's some stuff that's very wonky with it. Still fun to drive though, can get around it a bit with car setup, and you can learn how to play any video game. You know, you can learn how to play iRacing and then pretend that it doesn't have insane time model. You know, you can learn all these games, but there's just something a bit weird with this. Then when it comes to the multiplayer, I don't really want to be too negative about it because it's very clearly just the beta. It's just an initial introduction to the multiplayer, so it is what it is, but the UI really isn't fleshed out. The way it works, the way you host a session, you can't name sessions, it's just really jank at the moment. But I assume that's just because it's really an initial way for them to just test the basics of the multiplayer, get something there. So yeah, don't expect the multiplayer to be amazing at this point in time. It's just very bare bones. Now lastly, in terms of our sort of big criticisms of this title, I will say as well, we're getting some weird graphics behaviour with this game, where we still, around some corners and some parts of tracks, end up getting micro stutters coming in, and that's with our really budget 5090 graphics card and a 5950 X3D chip, you know, a computer that just about anyone could own. You know, it doesn't seem to really matter what settings we use either. Bizarrely, using frame gen seemed to help a lot, which is weird because normally if you've got stutter and other issues, frame gen tends to make stutter worse. But try frame gen out if you haven't. It's surprisingly good in this title. But yeah, there's just some weird frame timing issues at times, weird performance issues at times. It doesn't seem to matter what settings you use. Then it's also, we had a weird bug where in Windows we enabled and disabled HAGs, and then it seemed to work better for a period of time, and then again it didn't afterwards. So I don't know if there was an issue with HAGs, hardware acceleration for games in Windows, or not, or God knows what was going on. So at the moment there still seems to be some weird performance stuff happening, where at times it runs quite well and other times there's some stutter and it runs a bit weird. So who knows, still in development. Maybe that'll be something that's polished out, maybe that's graphics drivers, God knows what's going on there. But when you've got everything on full graphics and it's running well, it does look bloody nice. There's moments where you're driving it, you're like, this looks absolutely beautiful. So that's an advantage of Unreal 5, that it can look beautiful. Disadvantage, DLSS and frame gen can cause a bit smeariness to it and some delay and some other stuff. Right. Other than that though, I think things are progressing. I am cautiously optimistic for this title. I am loving the work that they're doing with this game. I do think it's really nice to have a serious rally game being developed. This is what I say every video on this. As I say, I think for the price, already there's a lot of fun to just have a really good rally experience there. And though I am critical of the physics in many ways, when am I not, there are some interesting aspects to the dynamics of the tyres whilst you're driving, and it's like every physics sim. There's interesting aspects to it, some that are maybe really quite good and better than other titles, and then some aspects that are terrible, as we pointed out. So there you go. That is our quick rundown after 12 hours of messing around with this title. We'll do some more playing it. We'll definitely do a video comparing this to Richard Burns Rally. You'll be really shocked and surprised with our conclusions on that. It's actually quite interesting, the comparison. For not just that one's better and one's worse. Bleh. It's actually quite interesting how they're different. But there you go. End of the video. Hopefully this was useful. Try to get to the points as quick as possible for those of you that just want to have a summary. Maybe we succeeded, maybe we failed. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Most importantly of all though, make yourselves a cup of tea and drink it. Till the next one, take care, thanks for watching, and goodbye.